By 1st October 1963, self-rule began in Nigeria in earnest, and ethnic nationalities had already agreed that Nigeria would remain as a single territorial entity to be governed by a federal system of government. Regrettably, after 2 years, 3 months, and 2 weeks, self-rule was truncated by military incursion to power. By 15th January 1966, the Nigerian military took over power from the civilian administration and governed Nigeria between then until 1999. Part of Enahoro's pursuit in life was to engage on a non-violent basis. In addition to his motion for independence, he set up a political party called Midwest Party, and subsequently in life, a National Reformation Party, as a way of engaging in politics to change the direction of governance towards true federalism. During the Nigerian crisis of Western Nigerian crisis of 1962, Enahoro escaped to Britain as a fugitive, and that raised big political question in the UK, knowing fully well that his motion sent them packing. He was seen as a fugitive offender, and that triggered tremendous debate within the House of Commons between the Labour Party that was in power at that time and the other parties. Eventually, he was extradited to Nigeria and was imprisoned, but was set free after the military coup of 1966. In the course of his engagement, he served at different governmental levels, including being Minister of Information, and at other various levels of government. After which, when power reverted to civil rule in 1999, he took on the task of advocacy, having decolonized Nigeria, demilitarized Nigeria. It was now time to refederalize Nigeria. The military involvement in governance changed the constitution of Nigeria from a federal system of governance to a unitary system of governance. So after leaving office political power, there was the need to now refederalize Nigeria and take it back to the 1963 Constitution in terms of the federal tenets in it. So he launched Movement for National Reformation in 1992 as a vehicle to accomplish first of all to demilitarize Nigeria, and secondly to refederalize Nigeria. That movement for national reformation is what has brought us here, and we are members of that organization. As a non-governmental NGO, the MNR focus is to get back to 1963 Constitution that was suspended by the military regime of 1966. The federal tenets in that Constitution will take us back to real civil rule in the way that ethnic nationalities had truly agreed to maintain Nigeria as a single territorial entity. We are technically asking our citizens to retrieve ourselves back to the position of the First Republic. And so, with the 1963 Constitution, we have a chance for every ethnic nationality to make a decision as to how the governance system will be. In pursuit of that, MNR came up and identified several military decrees that have created unitary system of government and making it impossible to refederalize the administration of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. As a result, a proposal of a bill to repeal those military decrees and amend the 1963 Constitution with current realities that will reflect our contemporary structure that bill was sent to the President, sent to the national leaders of the National Assembly, sent to every state governor and the Minister of the FCT. We await to get their reaction to this memo because our position is that the 1963 Constitution gave the then existing regional government some measure of autonomy, which is the basis of federalism. We also observe that it's only in Nigeria that a federal system that ordinarily should be two-tier, as it is in every part of the globe, we have a three-tier system of federal government in Nigeria, which is making the structure unworkable. We have the central government as the federal government, we have 36 state government, and we have 774 local government, making it a three-tier federal system. Ordinarily, our proposal to National Assembly and the President is to recall 1963 Constitution that was suspended by Decree Number 1 of the military in 1966. That Constitution was not abrogated. It was only suspended. So recalling it from suspension and amending it with current realities will pave the way to refederalize Nigeria. The current realities will be the existing 36 states will become the federating units. Thereafter, any group of them that consider their ethnicity to be homogeneous through boundary adjustment and referendum can become a single federating unit. While in areas where you have heterogeneous ethnic groups, they could come together to form a federating unit. So some federating units will be homogeneous in the long run, some will be heterogeneous in the long run. But the 1963 Constitution provides a context and a legal framework to pursue the refederalization agenda. The Constitution of 1963 is still a law in Nigeria. It's only that it's not been operative since 1966. So these are the key issues for which we are here to remind the global community and Nigerians at large that there's still work ahead of us. Now that we have nurtured democracy for over 20 years, it is time to go back to the real federal system of governance. And to commemorate the 100 years of the birth anniversary of Chief Antonio Nahoro, we have stickers here that we'll be launching also today as part of the effort to say, restructure Nigeria now. Now is the time to restructure Nigeria, and the choice before us as a nation is to go back to 1963 Constitution, amend it with current realities in order to have the system of restructuring through dialogue and conversation, away from violent approach that we have seen in some parts of the world and to some extent within even the Nigerian Federation as it is today. Violence will not be a useful approach to any person at all, but non-violent approach will be the way to go. There are global examples of non-violent approach to restructuring. We can cite quite a number of them. The former USSR is a classical example. It restructured itself through a non-violent approach. Czechoslovakia of yesteryears also restructured itself through what they call velvet divorce, through a non-violent approach. So our mission in MNR is to say that is the way Nigeria should re-federalize its own federal system, so that we can belong to the Committee of Nations as a country of people that have come to common understanding of the need to organize and manage themselves through dialogue and conversation. And finally, the motion that was moved in 1963 is titled Motion for Self-Governance, moved on the floor of the Federal House of Representatives in March 1953 by Chief Anthony Eremosole Enahoro. A copy of the motion is here. It's a 6-page document, but the good story about it is that it marks the life of Chief Anthony Enahoro as a man of peace, a man who pursued change through dialogue and conversation, and not through a violent approach. Decolonization process, demilitarization process, refederalization process. He set up institutions and platforms to pursue dialogue and conversation. So it is our pleasure to welcome you today and to assure you that as an organization, and in marking the 100th year birth anniversary of the founder of MNR, we are happy to tell Nigerians and to tell the world that the time to refederalize Nigeria is matured. It should be now, and any further delay will continue to stop violence in various parts of the country, which will do no one any good.
You will agree that we have one constitution now. It means it takes place. Each of the federating units becomes a true subnational government with its own constitution. And it also goes with resource control, which is very important. And also the security situation in the country would be improved because each of the federating units will have its own security setup. State police will be inevitable, and that should improve the security situation in the country. Then the other one I mentioned, the resource control. Each federating unit will own its own resources within its borders. Solid minerals, gems, hydrocarbons, and the rest. And that is going to impact the people's life because they will be exploiting them within their state. It will generate revenue for the state and all the other spin-off benefits from the exploitation of it. We are not exploiting a lot of the resources in the states at the moment. States in the northwest, for example, Zamfara, there's a lot of gold. We're not sure what's happening. Plateau State has minerals. Every state in this country is blessed by nature with vast resources which are not being exploited. Somebody has described Nigeria as a very rich country with poor people. That situation will change. We have a lot of unemployment today. The Japa syndrome is here. That will be brought to an end. And self-governance is the center of federalism. Self-governance, the people are able to run their affairs the way they want. Now everything is over-concentrated in the federal capital in Abuja. That should not be so. With restructuring, we believe this will improve the lives of the people and then the self-governance that they have been yearning for years.
Brings about semi-autonomous governments. each of the subnationals will take control of their natural resources, and in managing such, there will be development. It will first of all bring about competition. And you know, competition ensures rapid development and growth. During the First Republic of the 1963 constitutional era, we know there were competitions between the various regions. As you will know, the Western region was recorded as having the first television station in West Africa. And that was why they were able to also encourage free education and massively educated the Southwesterners. And today, it is also a fact that we have the largest number of professors from that very region. And the Southeast, we are also able to tap in and grow their economy. And today, we know that the Southeast has been able to prove that they can drive technology in this country. The northern region was known to be the food basket of this country because that was where they specialized. So in other words, structuring this country is about regionalism, and that will promote economic growth and development, and also be able to guarantee security because each of those federating units will be able to manage the internal security. Currently, we are agitating for state police. In that era, it was a constitutional mandate for each sub-regional government to manage their own security. And what is happening presently in this country never happened in that very era. So we are agitating and clamoring that we should go back to a restructured Nigeria with true federalism, where the various sub-national governments can take care of their own economy, take care of their own security, and take care of their welfare and the development of their own constituents, their own people. And that will be a better thing for this country going forward. Thank you so much.
Principle of a unified Nigeria. Restructuring, when done properly, will actually bring together a better unified Nigeria. See, what we have now looks like a station where you have maybe children of the same parents who are being forced to stay together without each one of them being allowed to express their own individualism. Maybe the father says, all of you must wear this today, all of you must go here tomorrow. They will all live together, they all look like they're living together, but there's no true unity. You see, what we're saying about restructuring is that every federating unit will be able to develop according to its own resources and according to its own values. That is, you are not going to have issues relating to health, primary health care, primary education, secondary education being determined at the federal level, whereby even the primary school curriculum is all over. There's a time, for example, history was outlawed in this country, whereas some parts of the country wanted their children to know their history. Some part felt, no, history wasn't necessary. How can you have a country that does not know, where the children do not even know their own history? So what we're saying is, when you have restructuring, people will take responsibility for their leadership and even for their own followership. You see, because now everybody, if you go to the most remote place now, they'll be saying something is wrong because of something that's happening at the federal government. It's not true. Most of governance is supposed to devolve from the state government. If you go to, I'll give you an example, because I'm a doctor. You find that health at the tertiary level, which is run by the federal government, is working. It's not supposed to be so. Health at the federal government is supposed to be at the tertiary and policy care. But what happens? The state governments, the local governments, they abdicate their responsibility. So people will take malaria to teaching hospitals that are owned by the federal government. That should not be so. If people know that, look, this is what our state is producing, this is what our governor is generating, they will hold him accountable. Everybody is interested in what is happening at the federal government level, which is very far from them. They should be interested in what is happening at their local government level, at their state level, and these things will only be apparent when we have restructuring. Restructuring will allow each part to use its own resources to develop itself to the best of its capacity and capability.
In addition, splitting into units, but the key issue currently, we are operating a unitary system of governance where one size must fit all. A policy that is made by the central government must be fully complied with by every other administrative unit, from Calabar to Sokoto, from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, everywhere. But as you know, these are littoral states or sub-national institutions whose peculiarities are not the same. So the idea of uniformity, one size must fit all, is creating a big issue. So the idea of restructuring really is, let's go back to what we had in the First Republic that lasted only 2 years, 3 months and 2 weeks, from 1st October 1963 to 14th January 1966. During that period, every regional government moved and developed its territories and its people based on its own initiative. And in addition, the current level of governance has centralized political power in the federal government. There is need for power devolution. You are familiar with the security situation in the country. No governor has the capacity to take any decision and instruct a commissioner of police, for instance, or a military officer who is a commanding officer in his state. Those security personnel have to take clearance from the Ogas in Abuja. And in issues of security, time is of the essence. Lives are involved, properties are involved, livelihood are involved. So restructuring will go a long way to decentralize this central command arrangement. Central command arrangement appears to work for the military, but this is a civil administration. And it's the focus of MNR to re-federalize the civil administration. And so that's the essence of restructuring. And remember, every government derives power from the Constitution. The colonial administration made Constitution for Nigeria. And they governed us between 1861, when they began to take our territory, to when they handed over 1st October 1963 and we took self-rule. Then the military took over from 15th January 1966 until 1999, 29th May. They made constitutions for Nigeria. At least we remember two. 1979 Constitution was made by the military for Nigeria. 1999 Constitution was made by the military for Nigeria. Go back to colonial era. 1922 Constitution by Clifford, 1946 Constitution by Richards, 1951 Constitution by Macpherson, 1954 Constitution by Littleton. They were all made for Nigeria. But the 1963 Constitution was made by Nigerians. It was not made for them. They made it themselves. There was a constitutional conference in Ibadan, I think 1950. Another constitutional conference in Lagos in July 1963. Ethnic nationalities gathered and said, yes, we want to remain one single entity, but with a federal system of governance. And they sent that proposal to the Federal House of Reps, and the Constitution was enacted. So that is the only constitution that was made by Nigerians. So when your constitution says we the people, that is the only one that meets the litmus test of we the people. Because ethnic nationalities gather. But colonial constitution is not about we the people, it's about we the colonizers. The military constitution is not about we the people, it's about we the military. Remember that a decree is a military process of administering power that they took unlawfully by power of the God, no more, no less. And military or security people, they are managers of violence. So they took that power by force. So they will have to govern by a process that meets their own professional calling, which is decree, all over the place. A decree is made by a few people, unlike a constitution. So that is the story about the need for restructuring. And to say, now that we have tested civil rule from 29th May 1999, it is time to thoroughly refederalize, and let's go back to the federating system of governance that our forefathers agreed upon. We had the option to go back to our ethnic boundaries in 1963, when the colonial administrators were living. During the Constitutional Conference in Ibadan and also in Lagos, if Nigerians at that time had said, we don't want to be one entity, we're going back to our ethnic kingdom, we would have had our way. So that's the essence of restructuring. Thank you for your question.
Because there is no part of this country that cannot raise revenue. There's no such thing as, oh, we just depend on federal allocation. No, that's just because of habit. It was not so historically. We have always known that in this country, different parts of the country had their areas of strength. They produce different products, whether they were agri-products, whether they were mineral products. But there is no part of Nigeria that cannot produce and produce richly and efficiently if we decide to be ingenious. The fact is that the current tax regime does not even encourage people to bother to work hard. It just encourages rent taking and rent seeking. So it is going to be good for the country. People should support it because Nigeria will become richer, because everywhere will become more productive. You know, when they say there's no food for a lazy man, it means that when a lazy man hears that, he has to get up and work hard. But if you say, oh, you never have to work to eat, nobody's going to, why should I bother to want to go and eat, to go and work if I know that if I don't work, I can eat? But when people know that, look, we're going to make our roads, we're going to do our electricity, we're going to do our security, we're going to do these things based on money that we raise, they will work hard because everybody loves good things. And the people who will benefit most will be the people that you call the most vulnerable. That tax act even says people earning below a certain amount will pay little or next to nothing. I think a lot of people should go and study that tax act rather than chorusing what they're hearing from some people who are just trying to be popular. They should go and read it. When people read it, when those who read it explain it to those who cannot read it, and people are aware of it, they will know that this is the first step in fiscal federalism. It's not enough, but it is a good first step. Every part of this country should live on the resources that they produce. That is going to make everybody work hard to produce more.
The experience currently is you drive through 3, 4, 5 local governments and you find you have to pay tax 5 times. And we are overtaxed. There are multiple taxes in the country. It's going to be unified through this. And also, the controversial part that people are talking about a lot is the VAT, value added tax. that is value added on the goods already produced or services. So it's a consumption tax. For now, the federal government is collecting it. You will remember a few years back, the governor of Rivers State challenged the federal government that VAT is not supposed to be a national tax, supposed to be a state tax, because it's consumed locally in his state, and he won the case in a federal high court in Port Harcourt. Now, we still have the federal government writing a VAT tax. It's a shame, but at least a step in the right direction. With full restructuring, that will not be the situation. VAT will be within federating units. They will collect that and make a contribution to the center, and that's all. We'll be the richer for it. Thank you.
All right, sir. Please, I have.
Should make those, manage those resources to impart development on themselves. And to that extent, the issue with the tax reform is about VAT, the sharing of VAT, the money that comes from VAT collection. And by that policy, government is saying that 60% of VAT collection should go to derivative sources, areas where those resources were collected should take 60% of it, unlike what used to be before. And that's where the argument is building. And that concerns fiscal federalism, control of resources by some governments, like states, as we presently have. And that is what concerns the MNR.
So the other part.
The other part is about government. We won't be here to defend government policy.
It's not about you defending the government.
What concerns us there is
the
fiscal
question I
federalism.
raised also has to do with a common Nigerians. So you need to speak about it.
The nexus between restructuring, the federal government is funding the subnational units. It's an abnormality. The reverse should be the case. The subnational, the federating units should be the ones to fund the central government. So if you look at tax reform from the current perspective, where the federal government has taken away all the powers of the federating units to itself and is funding the federating units, then you are likely not to get a flaw. So restructuring will pave the way for all the federating units to generate sufficient income for themselves. It's like you and I here. Everybody will cook food in his own house and serve himself the way he wants to eat. When you have a guest, you can serve your guest. That's just an analogy. But when you are waiting for your guest to come and cook food for you, to serve you in your own house, then something is wrong. So the nexus between the two is not direct. And our clear focus is about restructure the governance system of this country in such a way that the federal tenets, federalism tenets as we know it globally, will apply. Not a unitary system in the name of federal system. A unitary system that has reduced the federating units in bracket to mere composite administrative centers. The state government, the local government, are simply composite administrative centers of the federal government. But in a federal system, each federating unit will have its own way of administering its own people and territory, but have full allegiance to the central government.